Hey guys, so I better introduce myself since how this is going to be the first episode. So Matt Reid of Your Core Discovery, and this is the official Family of Bravehearts podcast launch. So Family of Bravehearts is quite cliche, being a Scotsman and family being one of my highest values. But what I want to bring to you guys here is a podcast where we kind of tap into our conversational styles again, where we can actually be present and have educational but entertaining conversation again, rather than a set structure. There will be topics, and I'm sure we'll digress and we'll go down there, but I want to be conversing rather than interviewing with the brave hearts that I believe that I'm very blessed to know. People that get up every day with a clear purpose, that are making a massive difference in humanity. This family of brave hearts for me is what keeps me on my toes, keeps me sharp, and this is the world that I want to live in. So you can expect really next level souls, some that you will have heard of, some that you won't, but I guarantee you will in the future. And I'm delighted to kick things off with my brother from another mother, Mr. Stefanos Sifandos. How are you, man?
I'm excited to be here, brother.
Yeah, me too. Look at my smile, mate. It's like Christmas.
Me too. I'm very honoured, man. Very honoured to be the first guest on this massive podcast.
It's been a long while, mate. I don't know if you've saw some of the memories that have come up on Facebook of late. The last 2 years was the build-up. It was post-Nexus, the first Nexus. For anyone that doesn't know that was a health event I ran in Perth, Western Australia. And it was just before we ran our retreat down in Preveley. So we were doing a lot of live feeds. So a lot of these have popped up. There's a lot of where it sparked the bromance. Do you want to, in your kind of recollection, just kind of talk to people about how we met before I introduce you properly?
Yeah, I was actually speaking to this the other day. I was talking to my beloved because she asked, we were talking about you in very endearing terms, and Christine was asking about how'd you actually meet Mark? And I said, in short, I was speaking at an event, he was in the crowd, and we just bonded and connected immediately. That's what it was. I bonded through his fucking courageous story of dealing with essentially his demons in physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual terms. And I was in awe of that, and I was inspired by that. And I just thought, this guy's a brother. Like, he's a brother for life. It's as simple as that. Like, there's no, I met you, we spoke. I just knew that we would be friends for, I don't know, until I close my eyes permanently in this body.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I think it was not long after you presented at Jason Dick's workshop that I received the diagnosis of the cancer.
Yeah,
and
but you were testing it at that point, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you were concerned that, well, this is I'm not. My body is doing something or telling me something that's not exactly kosher for health, optimal health and wellness.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was teaching. Go figure. But yeah, I called you. I remember saying to you, I wasn't embarrassed, but I just thought, I don't really know him, but I feel that I do. Yeah. And I just was wanting to kind of overplay I'm not a weirdo phoning you out of the blue here, mate. And I kept saying, I don't know why I'm drawn to call you, mate, but I hope you don't mind. And I could not have felt more welcomed, mate. And straight away, I was like, I'm so glad I did phone you. And then I think you thought, like, there's no right or wrong here, mate. I'm just trying to gauge where you're at. Are you open to alternative routes here, or what way you're looking to plan it? And then when I kind of told you everything that I was doing, again, there was that synergy of aligned values, and you put me in touch with some amazing people, mate. Damien Donahue, my brother, Super Health Australia, we'll give that a shout out. Just fantastic, mate. It's just kind of grew arms and legs, which brings us on to the biggest event in your life. What's happening, mate, in a couple of weeks?
Getting married, brother, and nice to have you there as well.
I can't wait, mate. Can you tell us a little bit about that, mate? Because it's a story, I think, that restores faith, not only in humanity, mate, but the conscious blend of the two energies, the two primary energies that make up the human experience. And so many people are just gravitationally pulled towards you and Christine. So can you tell us a little bit about your beloved, how you met, and what doors have opened in your life since she's come in?
For sure, man. It's such a beautiful question. and I'm going to do my best to be very succinct with it, because I think there's that story in and of itself. There's so much that had to happen, so many layers of revealing of oneself, both for Christine on her own individual journey and for myself on my own individual journey. As you know a great deal of that, and you experience some of that as well directly. It's interesting. We look back at our lives and we think about, wow, I really had to behave like that and feel all that and express all that to get to a point of greater clarity. And what I'm meaning is, I had to mourn the loss of aspects of myself through the catalyst of another relationship, to realize that that relationship was a seasonal relationship, and that relationship was there to teach me something greatly and deeply about myself. And it wasn't the relationship so much that I was mourning, but it was the aspects of me that I was losing in that relationship, that I was shedding to step into a newer version of me. And we go through these stages in life, right? And so our coming together, Christine and I mean, I was living in Australia, she was living in the US. I'd never heard of her, she'd never heard of me. She decided, I mean, I could pull this back so far, but she did some astrocartography. For those of you that don't know what astrocartography is, it's essentially determining where the most optimal places for you to live are geographically based on your astrological chart. So she did some astrocartography, which I've done, by the way, with this gentleman, the same gentleman that she did it with. We've done it together. He's actually quite profound. That's a fast forward. And so she did that 3 years ago, and he said, look, where you are in LA, it's okay, but it's not. If you're going to stay in California, the best place for you to stay is Southern California and San Diego region, North County, San Diego. But otherwise, the most optimal places for you are Minnesota, Cape Cod, and a couple other. And she was thinking, I'm not exactly going to go to Cape Cod and Minnesota, so let me take the lesser of the best of these that aren't as bad. And so a couple of years ago, she moved herself, 2-3 years ago, she moved herself to San Diego, found a dream house on the beach, on the cliffs, gets kicked out of that house because the landlord wanted to move. The landlord wanted to sell the house. So she gets kicked out. She loved the house. She was only there for a year. She thought to herself, what do? I really don't want to move into another house again without my king, without a beloved in my life. I'm going to be nomadic. So she put all her things in storage, which is very unlike Christine, if you know Christine. And she went out about in the world and just continued to do her thing. But to live from that place, she was speaking a lot around the US. She was traveling a lot around Asia, Europe, US for work and around the US. So she didn't have to have a grounding per se. But that was taking its toll. Fast forward 8 or 9 months, she'd sort of had enough of that. This was March, April last year, 2018. March, Feb last year, 2018, and she gets a call from a good friend of hers, who's a mutual friend of mine, because they're in a company that I'm involved in, a global company vested in the blockchain and health and wellness. And they say, why don't you come over and check out our place, because we're going to leave here in a few months and you may like it to lease. And she'd been there before, but not from a perspective of, I'm going to lease the place, let me look at the cupboard space, let me look at the garage space, let me look at the layout from that perspective. She comes over. And at that point, Akira, husband and wife, Akira says, hey, Christine, can you sit over this computer and just look at our website, which is High Vibe, because I'm going to do so. They were responsible for media, and he was doing some media. And he said, I'm going to do some over-the-shoulder, behind-the-scenes sort of thing, you looking at our website. So she's looking at our website. At that point, I was the first person to come on board after the 3 founders. And so she saw me and she said, I know that person. Who is that? I've been going to Australia back and forth. Who is that? Have I seen him? And Renee said, no, it's Stef. I don't think you've seen him before. You've met him before. He lives in Perth. He's a lovely guy. They start chatting. And Renee said, would you like me to make an introduction? He's a really nice guy. And Christine was very clear and said, sure. And ask him if he's relationship ready, because I'm not interested in just meeting a guy that is spiritual or good looking or whatever. She happened to think I was attractive. It's good on her, and it makes me lucky. And make sure he's relationship ready and he's present to that. So Renee literally sends me a WhatsApp voice note and asks me, says, is my heart open and my relationship ready? And this was about 18 months after my previous breakup. and literally a few days before that, maybe 4 days before that, I've been deep into meditation in the silent practice. And what came to me was my heart's open. Like, I'm ready now to be in a relationship. Doesn't mean I'm going to have one, but I'm just ready. And I'm very happy where I am in my life, but I'm open to the possibility of finding my person that can mirror me and match me, and we can go deep with. And Renee contacts me. We start making contact. I reached out immediately to Christine. We just started emailing. That was 1 or 2 emails. We went to voice notes. We went to Facebook. Sorry, we got off Facebook, went to WhatsApp, and we literally had a WhatsApp conversation and relationship for months. Just getting to know each other. It was platonic, but it was depth. It was really deep. And so the interesting thing was that why she agreed to also meet with me was because in 2017, I was going to Europe. In 2018, for Mind Valley University, the blockchain company was vested in Estonia. We were going to Estonia. Mind Valley University happened to be there. Christine's a Mind Valley author. She rang up Vishen that night, who's the owner of Mind Valley, and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Europe. I'm teaching in London. I'm going on a holiday in Greece. Do you want me to come and speak in Estonia?" And Vishen was like, "Yeah, we have one spot available. Come and speak and do a presentation." So now she's going to Estonia. I'm going to Estonia. We're meeting in Europe. So we're having this WhatsApp conversation, and we're videoing it nearly every day. We're just communicating, we're talking, we're chatting, we're messaging, we're asking each other really deep questions. And really we're having lightness as well in the conversation dynamic, and it's building. And we're both going to see each other in a few months because we're both going to be in Europe. About 3 or 4 weeks outside of me leaving for Europe and her leaving for Europe, she contacts me and says, "Hey, look, as you know, I'm going on a couple's holiday in Greece, in Mykonos. And I agreed to this in January before she even knew I existed. And I just thought to myself, I'll have a partner by then. And if not, whatever. I'm always the 12th wheel, 13th wheel, or the 11th wheel, or third wheel. It's my friends just deal with that, And she said, "Look, we're going to meet in Estonia, but I know you're half Greek and half Italian, and I know you haven't been in Greece for a few years. I know you're going to Greece after Estonia because that's what you've told me, but do you want to come and meet me then?" And I thought to myself, absolutely. So I booked a ticket, and I was going to be in Estonia anyway. So we met in Greece for the first time, and we just met. And when we physically met, it just felt like home for both of us. And I'll speak for myself. It felt like home, and it felt like a coming together of something that had been in a process for some time. And that coming together was really, really beautiful. And the interesting thing is I can go on about the intricacies of this story and what had to happen, but the house that I'm in right now is the house that she first saw me in. So we actually leased this house. Now, the interesting thing is, right, that a house in Encinitas like this, that is very cost effective and in an amazing location and super neat and clean and just beautiful, spacious energy. It was for lease for 4 months in the summer. It's fucking unheard of. And we still leased it when we got back. It was still available. And we're here now. Now, the interesting thing is...
So the space was holding space for you?
Yeah, really, really interesting. So in as short as I can, but giving enough juicy detail, that's how we met. So much had to transpire for that, for us to connect and meet in that way. And so many occurrences through meeting different people for me, through social media to connect with, to be part of that business that then brought in other people and Mind Valley and all of that. And just so much had to happen, bro. And now we're getting married where we met in Mykonos.
Yeah. That's amazing, mate. I never knew you met in Mykonos. I just thought thought it was the Stef Greek heritage and a cool place that that's maybe been on a board or a bucket list or whatever. That's amazing. No. Even more depth. I don't know why I'm surprised. It's amazing. Can I jump, which will look after that beautiful story like completely out there turn, but the question after it will bring it all together in the topic that we're actually looking to speak to. Can you give a little bit of background in terms of your career path, probably starting from the now and what your way back, if you can do that, and go into, if you'd be so kind, to the juicy, darker stuff, mate, that's brought you to this beautiful place. I mean, I'm trying to hold space here as a kind of interview here, the podcast host, but honestly, mate, all through that story, I just want to scream fuck yes, because I felt like, you know, the stereotypical parent when your kid or your family member is hurting and you just want to take it away, but consciously I'm going, I can't, because when I take his pain away, I take away the pleasure and the glory, take away his triumph.
The learning, all of it, the growth. Yeah.
So I've got to just go, hey mate, if you want somebody, I'm here. If not, I totally get that as well.
Yeah.
But for you to let me in the small role that I played within that, is so fucking humbling, man. And to get to this is all I ever wanted. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I've got tears welling in the back of my eyes. I remember very clearly the level of just support that you offered and offer as well, just as a brother in my life now. And, you know, those things that if I were to describe you in one word, if I had to fucking choose one word, it would be loyal. And that loyalty, there's so much depth to that word that it covers so much, a spectrum of everything. And, you know, I'm a big believer in, whether it be family and business, in the outside world, in our inner world, we need people in our lives that can just really deeply support us. And I'm very blessed to have many, and yours. I shouldn't say many, more than most though. And you're one of them. And I thank you so much for that. So much.
My pleasure, man.
But to answer, to honour your question, where I am now is a really interesting place, and a place where I'm humbled to be in. I'm very connected to, and I'm very on mission and in mission and in and on purpose and vision. And really that is, for me, shifting the consciousness of humanity at an individual and at a collective level. And I'm really beginning with relationships. I find relationships fascinating, and the psychology of relationships and how we relate to ourselves, how we cultivate a deeper appreciation, self-awareness, self-worthiness of who we are in the world, our relationship to others, our relationship to intimacy, to concepts, to ideas, to our vision, our relationship to Mother Earth, our relationship to the actions that we take, our relationships to our fears, all of that, right? And what we experience in the world. And so relationships fascinate me. And so where I like to play, or where I like to really focus on now, is how do we evolve, enhance, and improve our relationships in every facet of life? How do we make them the most healthiest relationships possible, so that we create enough spaciousness in our being that we can really grow and expand, which is, I think, what we're here to do. I know that's what we're here to do. And I have a great focus and fascination with masculine and feminine dynamics, or just polar dynamics. So, you know, doing and being energy, whatever it may be, but just what makes the duality of reality, the reality of duality, what makes us human, and how that then is embodied in men and women, and how that is embodied actually in human beings, and how that's also embodied in reality. How does that express itself in reality? And so I take great pleasure and fascination in helping men and women, in helping human beings essentially really discover their power, their core power, and then bring that into relationship, because I'm a big believer of relationship, intimate relationship, particularly romantic relationship, but intimate relationship being something that is here to really heal the planet, and it's the next evolution of who we are. And so much, again, has to happen for that to unravel and occur. Such as clarity around the way that we love ourselves, the way that we care for ourselves and see ourselves. That really needs to unravel itself. And so there's part self-love, self-appreciation, self-discovery. And so that's where I am today. I work very deeply with the masculine and very deeply with the feminine. I have programs for both individual and group and so forth, and I speak extensively to both. But really, it's a cover of an umbrella of relationships, and then I look at masculine, feminine dynamics. That's where I am now. I've really been in that relationship space for a number of years, and I'm just refining it more and more as I grow. I've really come from, and I'm going to get to the juicy parts, but I'll just go through a chronological order first. I've come from health and wellness, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health and wellness. So my background is in psychology, social psychology, behavioral science, philosophy, in leadership as well. I had one of the first CrossFit gyms, I wouldn't say in the world, but one of the earlier ones. Well, definitely actually one of the first in the world. We started in 2007, I think, 2007. Myself, my business partner, and in that health and wellness space for some time, right? But at the same time as well, like yourself, Mark, qualified in various mind-body modalities, and really using them and working in a one-on-one capacity with people and learning more about the human condition and human performance. But what really got me focusing in human relationships and masculinity was just my own path and my own journey, my own experiences. And I coupled that with, of course, my background, my technical background when I was very intellectual. I've been good at being very intellectual and hiding behind my intellect, as so many of us are. So many of us are very good at that.
Yep. Hello.
And yeah, me too. And so I a few years ago, about 6 years ago, I had a really abrupt and intense breakup with a woman that I was with, and we were together for a few years. And she discovered I was unfaithful in that relationship, and that really allowed me to see myself truly for the first time. And at that time, I perceived it very ugly. I was very distressed with what I was witnessing within myself. A lot of shame and guilt, and it brought up a lot of fear from the past and a lot of old stuff with respect to my childhood and what I experienced as a child and what I felt as a child and what I was exposed to and the trauma and the pain and all of that. And so for the first time in my life, I decided to really look at that, to look at all of that and not just ignore it. And I went deep into the shadow. I went deep into facing my demons. I went deep into the pain and the fear and the abuse, the emotional, physical abuse, everything and all of it, brother. Like I really went there, and it allowed me to see what type of man and human being I was being in the world, why I was behaving that way. But, why understanding our narrative and having a process to talk about our pain is really useful. But then we also need to take action, have tools in how do we shift that, right? So talk therapy and the processing and the rewriting of our narratives is very important. And, I think Mark Manson uses this analogy. As we're younger, we have a 3-year-old. This is my analogy, but we have a 3-year-old self, a 6-year-old self, an 8-year-old self, 12-year-old self, 5-year-old self, 14, 16, 18-year-old self. Critical points in our lives where we're in reference to self-identity. And what Mark Manson says is that as we're young children, we have a small ball of yarn, and all our narratives and all our perceptions of self and who we are and our self-identity and everything that we think we are is in that ball of yarn. But as we grow older, we wrap that ball of yarn gets bigger and bigger and bigger with new narratives, new stories, new layers, new relationships, new experiences, new behavioral traits, new belief systems, or evolved belief systems, or changing belief systems, maybe not always evolved, new models of reality. And so if in those smaller balls of yarn we've experienced trauma and pain and chaos and fears and we've repressed them, they're stuck in that ball of yarn. And so we have to undo all the ball of yarn that is around it, all those narratives and stories, right? And so I had to do that. And that's very painful. If you've ever done that, it's very painful and very confronting. But I was fucking relentless, because when I witnessed the pain that I was causing others because of my action and the pain I was causing myself and the life I was denying myself, I had to, because I just wasn't unfaithful, man. I was really unfaithful, if there's such a term for that. I was really distracting myself, numbing myself, and dishonoring myself and the person that I was with. And I have immense remorse for that. And there was a lot of pain around that. And I was very blessed that she stood around and stuck around for a good few months where we could really work through stuff in real time, instead of saying, in my next relationship, I'll do this. Because I actually got to do it with a person that was we were massively triggering each other. And that was a game changer for me neurologically. We're talking about neurological rewiring, man. I fucking rewired shit that was lifetimes, eons old, But I chose to do that. And what allowed me, to go through with that was my willingness. And the willingness was vested in, I don't care if I die. I don't care if I end up in a mental asylum. I don't care how much I cry. I don't care how angry I get. I don't care about any of that. I'm going to feel it all. And I'm going to keep going until, not I'll fix myself because I'm not broken. I'm going to keep going until I really am living my truth. And if on that way or in that way, I can't bear it, it's too much and I commit suicide or I lose my mind, I end up in a mental asylum with the tools that I'm implementing, the shamans, the energy healers, the plant medicines, everything, right? The meditations, the solitude, not isolation, the solitude because it was purposeful with a reason. If any of that takes me down a path that may be perceived by society or myself to be really uncomfortable and negative, then I'm just going to take it. That's it. And that's, in short, that's where I am. But I was always restless, bro. I was always restless in my life. I had great businesses, are successful, but I was restless. I mean, now, don't get me wrong, I still get restless because when I get restless now, it's my body and my being telling me time to up level, time to change something. Before, when I was getting restless because I wasn't living in alignment and I was being ignorant and arrogant, and I was living way out of integrity. Now that restlessness is very different.
Yeah, mate, I think I've said this to you before. It's one of the reasons why I was so drawn to you. I think you see this in relationships, mate. A lot of people, I'm going to digress a wee bit and I'll put it back together. But a lot of people, for a relationship to work, the finish line, if there is such a thing, analogically speaking here, the finish line needs to be the common point that both of you are trying to get to while staying in your own lane. If anything, it's a three-legged race because you've got one free one there, but then there's that beautiful bit in the middle. But you're not... We've also all seen the meme on Instagram and social media where it's Michael Phelps battering along to the finish line. He's just so focused on what he's here to do. But the guy next to him is looking at Phelps to see where he is. And it's winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. And I think in relationships, that's it. You've got to have that commonality, but still honour the space for enough people to go off and come back. So we're talking about relationship, any relationship, but to the point you were talking about intimacy, but in romantic relationships, but I'm talking, the analogy here that's brought me to that is our relationship as brothers, because I see so many people and it's hard not to, inspirational people, you look up to them, but people idolize them from a kind of dangerous point. Whereas I'm very much of, I'll take the bit out of that serves me and who I am without losing who I am. And you're a massive one of those people, mate. I look up to you so much. But if anything, mate, if I lost myself in the pursuit of that, I know as a big brother, you'd fucking smack me around the back of the head and tell me to get back in my own lane. You wouldn't allow it, mate. You're not here to be falsely revered, mate. You're here to help people revere themselves. But there's so many similarities and synchronicities in our journey where I think this is why I look up to you a little bit, because it's as if you're just that little, you've kind of done it a little bit before me. Everything you're talking about, that restlessness, mate, this is where I'm at right now. This is why I'm back in Scotland. Yeah. Because I've got to go back to where it all began. Because I was running towards my dreams, but the catalyst for leaving was fear, masked as anger, and I was running away, and I've had to come back, and I'm a completely different person, mate. But this has been horrible. It's been horrible. Yeah. So many dark nights of the soul, waking up, and there's been times that I've just thought, this is that. I'm in a way out. Then the mental in the asylum and losing my mind is a thought that's crossed my mind many, many times over the years. And I've actually been okay with that. There's actually been times that I've went, I am actually losing my mind here. And then I've had the same voice go, thank God, because it's not serving you. It's time to lose it and find another one. But the death thing is something that's really, I've feared actually. That was I'm just flashback. It was the first thing I said to you, mate, when we met at Jason Dick, and you asked people what the biggest fear of, and I put my hand up. I was the first person to ask. I said, I'm the fear of dying. That was before the diagnosis, but I just knew. There we go. It kind of went full circle. And that's now being released because I know I have had so much in this lifetime, genetic, ancestral, cultural stuff in this country that I've allowed to run me. And the restlessness, mate, I think is a lot of stuff that isn't even mine. It's been passed in generations, but there's no separateness. So it is mine as well, and I need to own that. So I've come back to the beginning, and hearing you describe it as articulate as it did, I mean, until I've told that story, you probably never knew, but at a deeper level, of course you did. It gives me again that faith and that hope that, you know what, you're exactly where you need to be. And I think there's so many people here that's going to listen to this, that's going to get that, because they'll see the void in the life of the not having the king or the queen. And it's easy to look at you and Christine and go, oh my God, there's the postcard relationship. But you just never hide behind the fluff. You're very true to self to be seen in all of it.
You're definitely not postcard, bro.
No,
like there's
no such thing. But no. I think you're like me, mate, where I think you've got the integrity. Sometimes, mate, where I learn is, see whatever I'm feeling, I'll either go in and I'll unpack it, and then I'll go, and I'll go, or sometimes I just go record live and I'll speak, and I'll go back and I'll watch it back, and that makes me go, And it was something you did, I can't remember, it was like something trivial. You snapped Christine's face off when she was just asking you something about nothing. This was many, many months ago. And she never reacted. She just kind of went, all right, he's having a moment, he's having a day, and left you. And that leaving you probably got you there quicker, mate. Fuck, what am I doing, man? And you went on Instagram Live and you spoke about it. And it gives so much, because the vulnerability, mate, is that authentic, it makes the relatability so effortless watching you guys, I feel. So it's easy for people to look at you in certain ways and kind of go, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But if I was like, don't go with what you look, really tap in the auditory as well, and just be, and just feel the actual energy behind these guys. And I don't want to go off on a tangent too much here, but everything from the relationship to then your relationship within business and relationship ultimately always within self to bring you to this point, I think again is going to help people see, I never knew that about Stef. Oh, that's exactly what I'm going through. And I think, mate, it's your courage to own your darkness, because some of my biggest teachers, world-renowned legends, but none of them really talk about facing the shadow. And that doesn't really sit with me, mate, because I think it's a must. And I would like, before I ask the next question, could you talk, because obviously the podcast, like you, is going out to families, mate, men and women and kids in time as well. But primarily I'm speaking to the men. I just think, because from a gender point of view, I understand them, and I've got a little bit more empathy because I've got more direct experience, whereas I can learn about womb healing and all the rest of it, but I'll never know physiologically what that feels like. So there's that point of relatability that's just always a little bit off. I'll have the philosophy, but I'll never have the direct correlation. So are guys that are listening there that are under the illusion of, or the archetypes of provide, protect, go out, hustle, hunt, bring back, look after, but the mental health that's behind that, as you said, you talked about solitude and isolation, there's a big difference. I think a lot of business owners, male entrepreneurs out there, are in real isolation, and they don't want to talk about it, because I've noticed it very much here in Scotland, where there's this whole just stereotype that as a Scottish male, you're not supposed to feel. And the suicide rate here, and it's getting passed down the genes, mate, it's so worrying. Our 13 and 14-year-old kids in high school are committing their lives so alarmingly consistent here in Scotland just now. And it's this generational stuff that's not been dealt with, it's passing down, and part of their path as well, and their dharma, I get that. But I think a lot of it's very avoidable, because what's happening here for a lot of people is they're then living out the guilt of going, God, I had no idea. And then they start blaming themselves, because a lot of people, what they're doing is they would rather take their own life than put their hand up and say, do you know what, I'm struggling just now. So to tie all that kind of rant together, what advice would you give to men out there with that intricate balance of sitting in the pain and feeling the darkness without isolating people and not putting your hand up for help? What advice would you give there?
Yeah, it's a very dense subject matter that you're speaking to, and it's also one that's very necessary to be spoken to, and these conversations need to be opened up to even more and more. We need to start telling the truth And we need to not be afraid of our truth and the truth. And so there's an objective truth to some degree and there's a subjective truth. And without getting too philosophical, just whatever is in alignment with you, whatever your truth is, ownership of that without focusing on what the outcome may or may not be is essential. And so telling the truth for the sake of telling the truth, the intrinsic value of speaking, living, being, expressing, communicating, dreaming your truth. And that's different for everybody, right? And so we usually hide because we're scared that we may be perceived or interpreted as someone that's not favorable to the masses or to the in-group. And so we wear masks, right? And we wear these masks, and I did this for years, man. I wore masks, whatever social group I was with, I would wear a mask to satisfy that social group, to ensure that that social group was seeing me and thinking, yeah, this guy's part of our tribe, right? And I'd still be social chameleon. I'd still try and be, because I had that dominating energy. I'd still want to dominate that group or be really prominent in that group, but I would still adhere to the values of that group. And that was a learned social compensatory strategy and behavior that I learned growing up. As a kid, the more masks I wore as a kid, the less the chances that I would be hit by my father or judged by my father or abused by my father or hit by my father again, or see my parents behave a particular way would lessen my parents fighting with each other as well. And so the translation of that and the transmutation of that into an adult is not so much appeasing others, but more just the habit of adapting very quickly to my social environment and creating a persona of self that is in alignment with other people's values, not mine. So maximizing others, minimizing myself, and really continuing to lose myself in the process. And with the concept or the real condition, the experience of pain and fear and shadow, we just have to fucking get over ourselves, man. The reality of humanity is that it's in human nature. Tribal warfare is in human nature. It's how we have, one of the ways that we have learned to identify with the world and with ourselves, and one of the ways that we have grown. The downside of tribal warfare, meaning differentiation and challenge through conflict, friction, tension, is that in today's world, with the advent of technology, and globalization has been blown out of proportion. And so we're not, our neurology in our bodies, and I hope I'm explaining myself correctly here, we aren't equipped to deal with that level and that fast pace of conflict, right? And so what I'm getting at is that the shadow self, pain, fear, tension, conflict, it's part of who we are. It's not a bad thing. Now, as we become more conscious and more aware, and we become to think, are able to think more abstractly about life and ourselves and relationships, we now get to choose more actively whether we engage in that conflict or whether we relate to it or engage in it in a different way. And so for people men particularly, that are isolating themselves, that are thinking, I'm not earning enough money, I'm not good enough, I'm not attractive enough, I'm going to hide behind booze, I'm going to hide behind working a lot, I'm going to hide behind creating status and value, social value in the world and material wealth, so I can hide behind my insecurities. Or I'm going to visit prostitutes or whatever it is that they're doing, right, to feel better about themselves and hide from their truth. That shadow stuff, it's a part of life. The more you repress it, the worse it gets. The more profound it actually shows up in your life, because you're not giving it a voice. There's no release valve. And every time it does have a release valve, there's no conscious connection to it. And so it just keeps building up and building up. And so it's impermanent. It's temporary. It really is. That pain, that fear is temporary. And beyond that, it's feedback into who we are and who we have a capacity to be. And so if you can learn to be with that pain and be with that inner conflict, because conflict just isn't in the outside world, it's in the inside world. And so when I made the reference of tribal warfare shaping part of how humanity is today, the purpose for me referencing that is because it's saying that conflict is innate within us. And it actually helps us identify with the world. It helps us bring out self-esteem and self-worth. It helps us understand ourselves, and it helps us carve our path. The thing is that we shy away from conflict. Now, I'm not saying go to walk on the street and hit someone in the face and start a fight, or strap a bomb to you and walk into a shopping center and blow up everyone to create conflict. It's not the conflict I'm talking about. I'm talking about the natural fears that we experience in life, the conflict of decision making, the conflict that we have when we're arguing our belief systems and point of views with someone. How do we want to argue that? How do we want to communicate that? How do we want to converse that? We have an option now, more than we ever did in our past history. We're less conditioned by our environment. Be careful how I say that, because I don't want to. We were very conditioned by our environment, but we're more aware than we ever have been, is my point.
Yeah, totally.
And so running away from isolation, running away from fear, running away from conflict, it's just perpetuating that energy that then becomes stagnant and stuck within us, and we feel terrible and we don't know why. And so we try and alleviate that with drugs, with alcohol, with womanizing, with building businesses, with appearing to be successful, with titles and status, with doing energy, with completion energy. I have to complete this, I have to do that. And we're just running around in circles. And so we have to face our stuff. Now, the second part to that is that we're relational beings. Don't do it alone. Do some of it alone. Do some of it in solitude because you need to. That's a given, because we are also beings of solace and beings of we're individuated beings as well. And there's something to be said for taking parts of our journey alone. But we're relational beings. Find tribe, find people in your life, counselors, shamans, healers, friends, family members, animals, nature, that you can really rely on and that you can communicate with, and you can share yourself with in a non-judgmental and compassionate way. And I know that's hard for men. I know. But in saying that, there are a lot of organizations and a lot of people. The world's changing. There are organizations out there that are full of empathy and compassion. And they're anonymous organizations. You don't have to tell anyone. You just got to have that. You got to face the ego and allow the ego to just be okay, because the ego is just there to help us. It's holding on. It's just holding on to what's familiar. It's there to help us, but it helps us in a way that causes us more grief and more pain. If we have that conversation with the ego and say, it's okay for me to do something different, to reach out and ask for some help. It's okay to start improving my relationships with my wife, or with my mother, or with my father, with my child, because I know that when I do that, I'll be a better entrepreneur. I'll be able to make more impact in the world. I'll be able to make more money to support my family. I'll be able to serve others at greater levels. I'll have more meaning and cultivate more fulfillment in my life. And you have that conversation with yourself, with your ego, and the ego says, okay, I'll loosen up a bit. What are you going to do? And it's braces. And then you reach out for help, and it's something really new, but then you get some really healthy feedback. And you're seen for the first time maybe in your whole life for who you are. There's no judgment. Oh, you're sleeping with prostitutes? Okay. What does that mean to you? Let's talk about that. So you're not going to tell me I'm a bad person? You're not going to hate me? No, I'm here to listen to you, to help you. Let's move through this so you can change this behavior that you feel is unhealthy. And for the first time in your life, you're heard, and wow. So that's the path I feel in part that men need to take. We need to get together as men, because I don't want to go on tangents here, but we evolved in tribes, man. We evolved in groups of men, and we relied on each other to grow. And we lack that in today's world. We isolated. So get clear on what you want. Get clear on what you value. Get clear on your hobbies and your interests, and then join a social place with other men where you can at least find some common healthy ground to go into. Just make sure that your hobby's not shooting up heroin, because there are unhealthy consequences with that.
Totally, man. I think that's beautifully put together, mate, and it is those two parts, definitely. Just conscious of the time here, mate, so we'll look to bring this to a close, unfortunately, because I could talk all night, but the good thing is we'll see you in 2.5 weeks. And we'll do this again, and this won't be a first and last, that's for sure. Can you, before I finish with the big question I'd like to ask everyone, there's going to be so many men listening to this that are going, oh my God, I never knew that was an option. This guy's talking my language. Where can people get in touch with you, man?
Thank you, brother. StefanosSifandos.com. My Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that, Stefanos Sifandos. I'm sure you put in the show notes, but social media is the easiest, man, and all my website, all the details are there.
Perfect.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, don't make so. Last question is the biggie. if you could go back to your younger self in any stage in your life, whenever that shows up for you, first thing that comes to you, and you could give only one piece of advice, what would that wisdom be?
There's a few different ways I want to go with this, so I'm just sitting with it for a moment. It's always safe to speak. It's always safe to express. It's always safe to be you.
Beautiful. I think with everything that we wanted to touch on here, make it relatable, make it vulnerable, and show the men that are out there that don't feel that you have to build a legacy business. But if it's true with your authentic values and your telos and your life's path, get clearer in what that is and what that looks and why you want it. Because the commonality for most men in business, let's be honest, is for family freedom. They're getting it for family, they're wanting to make it for an impact, primarily for the nearest and dearest, and then hopefully as that grows, the consciousness is to give back to the world. But they don't see them. They get into business for the family, and the 16 hours in the office or going seeing prostitutes and all the other stuff that you spoke about. There's so much there, and I think people kind of go, my God, it's just sounds complex, but it's actually just back to basics. And if I can put my hand up and it's safe to always speak your truth, as you've just said, you're giving a lot of people hope, mate. And I think we'll just end that there. I'll just say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. Couldn't have thought of a better way to kick all this off. And there's going to be a big band of brothers rooting for you in 2.5 weeks anyway, man, that's for sure. I'll make sure of that.
I'm excited, brother. I'm excited to see you in the flesh. It's been too long.
Yeah, for sure. All right, bud. Go and take care. Give that beautiful queen of yours a big kiss, and I'll see you soon.
I will. Likewise.
All right, bud. Okay, doc, dude. Catch you later. Thank you.